What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be going over what you guys requested, which is a brand new Overwatch 2 tier list. So starting right off, I want to go and give you guys what you guys wanted. A lot of times you guys wanted this ASAP, like at the start of the video. So I'm going to go ahead and provide you guys with a kind of like a mini tier list. And the reason why I'm considering this like a mini tier list, and I'll go over all of my characters in terms of the tier list over here. But a lot of people just wanted to know which characters that they should actually play to rank up. Specifically, most of the time people just want to climb up to Diamond. That's about the top 10%, and a lot of times people just want to know like what are good heroes that I can recommend, because sometimes if I put a character on a tier list, it might be good at the very high rank of the game, but in the lower ranks of the game they may be a little bit more difficult to play. So I'm going to go ahead and provide you guys with this, because while I was streaming over on TikTok and Twitch, a lot of times people ask what's my tier list, and you know, what are my reasons, which we'll get into, but I wanted to provide this at the start because this is a very good point of the video, which is basically why people click on videos. They want to know which characters they should play. So starting right off, I have in the top where it's in the red, I recommend you guys to play these up until like Diamond. I feel like a lot of these characters are great for maybe even beginner players to go ahead and learn. Whereas in the orange here, I have, if you put in the time, these are good. As in, you can't be brand new to Overwatch, hop in, pick Lucio, and just absolutely shred content, because you don't know maybe certain angles that you can push people off at, or when you need to move a certain target away. You basically got to know when to time certain things compared to a different character in the game, right? So those are in the middle over there is characters that I would say if you really want to put in the time, these are great characters to learn right now with the most recent update. And then in the green over here, I put avoid these if you lose with them on your team. There are phenomenal players that play ball as well as Doomfist. Over here, you'll see this Doomfist. We're not going to die once over here in the gameplay on the attack here. But nonetheless, there are players that are just really good with specific heroes, and if you're winning with them, it's totally fine. But if you start losing and they're on your team, they are more than likely the reason, especially at the lower ranks. But, you know, sometimes they may do good, but people just don't follow up. It's just certain characters require maybe more team coordination than others. So this is kind of like my mini tier list, and the reason why most people would watch this video is basically seeing these characters here. They can go, okay, these are the characters that maybe I should try learning and pick up, and these are the characters that I should avoid. Like, as in, you avoid not only not playing them, but more so if you see someone on your team playing them and you lose, you put them on that avoid list, right? But these are the characters that I recommend. I put a few in each category because this is just kind of like a real quick within like a 1 minute here. So you guys can visually see all the characters. Now I want to go and hop into the tier list now for like the big tier list, and I'll kind of explain my reasons more in depth. But basically, most people would probably agree.
I agree.
I mean, these are all going to be subjective anyways. You're not going to find everyone with the exact same tier list anyways. But I think most people would agree that right now in terms of like DPS, Mei is very lackluster.
Yeah, that's pretty true.
There are more niche maps, and we'll get into that in a second. But in terms of like a healer or a support Brig, it's really hard to see a really good Brig under Diamond. Most of the good Brigs are going to be top 500, and or they would probably be better if they would just pick another hero like Kiriko, because she's way better. So that's why I have this little like introduction tier list here. But now I want to hop into like the actual like tier list with the letters and stuff. So let's go ahead and hop into it. So for the worst characters right now in the game, of course, there's going to be someone in the comments that says, yo, I played this character, I'm a top 500. Well, that's great for you. But on average, most people just want to know, you know, what are good characters to pick up and which ones maybe to avoid. And it's going to be very similar to my like mini tier list over there. But basically, even with the newest Junker Queen buffs, I feel like, yeah, she becomes a little bit better. But overall, you're just going to get absolutely shredded by Roadhog as well as Rissa. And when you start climbing up in the game, every single time you apply that anti with your ultimate, Kiriko just says no.
No.
And also, her wind-up animation is so dang long to the point where most games will have a Ana at the higher ranks of the game. You are just going to get put to sleep. It's a very long animation cancel, so a lot of times it's not going to be going off in the higher ranks. And on top of that, when you compare it to the other tank ultimates in the game, it's a little bit lackluster. But that's it for like the D tier. And Sombra's like, she's gotten changed to where she just does less damage. This was like, it's not in the most recent patch notes, but into season 2, like she just doesn't see very much play. Even if there's a Doomfist, I still feel like Sombra is just very weak overall as a pick, because even if you hack Doom, it's not the same hack as the Overwatch 1, right? Doomfist can still do his things, and she's just not nearly as powerful as she used to be. But that's it for like the D tier. There's only 4 characters here. I think everyone just understands like Brig. Yeah, she doesn't really do so hot. All right, so next up, I have my C tier category over here, and these are where I consider these to be maybe niche picks. Like maybe you're really good with a very specific character, and that can apply to D as well. Specifically on ball, there are amazing, phenomenal top 500 ball players, but are you that that player?
Nope.
Maybe not, right? So, more than likely, yeah, Ball is just kind of a character most people always want them to swap when they're actually picking him. I feel like the same way with a lot of times with Moiras and Zens, when you get to the higher ranks, it's usually going to be like Lucio, Ana, as well as Kiriko, because they have a lot more impact ability in the game. You can see over here, yeah, we had 0 deaths on Doomfist. This is in rank, by the way. Wow. But overall, yeah, these are the characters I would say are more niche oriented, as in like if you want to pick them on very specific maps, sure, that can be an okay option, but overall you'll have better luck on other heroes overall. But on very specific maps like Iconwald, May Ice Wall, or even on King's Row, the Ice Wall can be very, very good. But again, it's more like map dependent, or like your character that really likes these sort of playstyles. And also after Genji's nerf, I just haven't seen Genji as much in the higher ranks of the game. A lot of honesty is still Sojourn, and you guys have seen some Sojourn gameplay over here, so it's perfect.
It was perfect. Perfect.
But yeah, these are the characters where I would say, again, if you're really good with them or very specific maps, it can be okay over here. I'm not going to go into details on every single character unless they've had a change. Even with Moira's new update, like, yeah, with her orb, she can kind of have a little bit more of her resource to actually heal, but it's just DPS more at the end of the day. And they're like, I'm trying to get my resource, guys, but we all know they still got resource. They just want to play DPS. I don't know why they don't just queue up for DPS. Next up, I have the B tier category, which are basically playable in most scenarios. You'll see in this gameplay, we actually end up rotating through multiple different characters, just because sometimes when I stream, I just like to rotate through characters. But honestly, I should have stayed Sojourn, because Sojourn is absolutely amazing. You'll see where she lands on this tier list. But that's the C category. Now we're moving into B category. I would still say Zarya with the most recent buffs. Basically, she has an extra second before her energy starts to drain, and also drains at a slower rate. I still think Zarya is okay.
I mean, it's alright, like...
It's weird because a lot more people are playing Orisa, especially at the higher ranks of the game now. I would say I'm seeing Orisa a lot more. Hog and Orisa basically see a lot of play, and then some of the other tanks, yeah, they're still existing. But specifically against Orisa, sometimes I don't know what the go-to pick is. But sometimes when I feel like I'm playing Roadhog and I'm getting put to sleep constantly, or I'm getting anti-nated constantly, or I'm just simply not landing my hooks, sometimes at the higher ranks, you'll see these really good Lucio players.
Really good.
And all they do, they sit right next to you, and as soon as you land that hook, they're just like, boop, nope, you're not getting it. You can't confirm it.
Not gonna happen. No, not gonna happen.
Right? But at the higher ranks, sometimes I feel like the supports actually carry the game way more than the Roadhog. The Roadhog could be the best Roadhog. I pick Grandmasters on Roadhog, and sometimes I feel like I still can't play. Like, you just get wrecked by the Kiriko, the Ana. Is the supports control who's winning the game in terms of like the Roadhog versus Roadhog. But nonetheless, yeah, I like Zarya still, because against Orisa, or if I'm getting antied, or if I have a player that's really popping off, like I feel like I'm not doing anything, but I know we got a Genji that's really doing stuff, I'm just gonna support the Genji, man. I'm playing tank as support. But yeah, I still think Zarya with the newest changes, she's not gonna be like OP like she was back in season 1. She's still like relatively decent. I still think Ashe is a phenomenal pick, maybe even like closer to the A tier. But the thing is it really comes down to if they don't have an Ana, when you pop Bob, it's just so dang good. It usually just cleans up the fight. Going up to the other changes, this wasn't like the most recent change here in January, but I believe in December we got a buff with Ramatra where he get extra movement speed. I think Ramatra is actually a pretty solid pick in most cases. I'm going to be dropping some really godly gameplay with Ramatra after he got buffed. And some matchups, I feel like when you pop Ramatra's ult, it just lasts forever. Like, the team just simply loses because how good Ramatra actually is. I'm going to make this a little smaller so you guys don't have to strain your eyes with the gameplay here. But I still think that overall there hasn't been too many changes other than like they fixed Hanzo's glitch where when he used to shoot the bow, it would like bounce up like crazy. That's been fixed. It's not really like a huge buff to Hanzo, but it's a visual change that actually is a buff in a sense because it doesn't clutter the screen. But there hasn't been too many changes with the tanks other than Ramatra, and then Zarya got a minor buff. Jungkook took a buff, but in this current meta of Roadhog versus Jungkook Queen, it's not even the same. Jungkook Queen can land the knife, pull the character in, and then attempt to go for like a one-shot combo, but Hog just guarantees it. I like Jungkook Queen's ult a little bit more than Hog, even though Kiriko completely stops it.
Yes, I like that.
I still think Jungkook Queen, even with the newest changes, yeah, she heals a little bit more, but Roadhog has a one-button eye heal for 350. You know how much HP Jungkook Queen has? 450. So it's kind of weird that like when she shouts, she only gets a small amount, but at the same time, she does put it for everyone, and it is like over health. And when you're anti as Roadhog, you don't get it, but you get the idea. Roadhog is just overall a better version of Junker Queen at the end of the day in most scenarios, I would say. But on top of that, if you have a really good team, maybe with Junker Queen's buff, it's a little bit better, but I still think that she's like towards the bottom of the barrel when it comes to tanks. But that's basically the newest like changes right there. Now going into the A tier, which is I would consider the best pick before we get into the S tier. So I really feel like Ana could even be in the S tier, and that's where I would put like where the character might need some sort of a nerf. So I feel like right now in terms of DPS, Sojourn is still dominant in terms of DPS. I still think Reaper is a very strong pick right now, and the reason why is Reaper is very, very powerful up against Roadhog, and Roadhog and Winston still see a lot of play even towards like the higher ranks. Well, Roadhog is like definitely seeing a lot of play at the higher ranks of the game, but on top of that, yeah, Winston still sees a decent amount of play because he's good on a lot of maps. You'll notice on a lot of Overwatch 2 maps, there's like this area where there's like high ground, and the maps that have high ground, if you're playing like Ryan, like my opponent is over here, you're gonna have a bad time when there's different levels of elevation where, you know, people can just go ahead and go to. So I feel like Orisa's really good for not only knocking people off maps, so it's like on certain maps it's great, but overall she's just incredibly tanky and very consistent, similar to like Winston, where Winston's, he's gonna be consistent, right? Whereas Roadhog, they either pop off or they don't really do anything. I feel like it's hard to get a Roadhog that's in the middle. It's either please switch off Roadhog, or it's like, dude, this Roadhog is doing so good, he's carrying my team and stuff like that. But there's not really any changes over there. Roadhog, though, in like a week, I think they said in January 15th, he's actually getting a nerf. He's not going to be able to one-shot, so he might drop all the way from A tier to like D tier, or he could be even better. I mean, who knows? Remember how they nerfed Sojourn, and she's still like good, in some cases she's even better. So I would still say, yeah, it's up in the air for Roadhog where he's going to move, but there hasn't been any other real changes. So yeah, you might be wondering, where's Kiriko? Well, I put Kiriko in the needs a nerf. Kiriko absolutely dominates the entire game. Not having a Kiriko, and the reason why is Kiriko's abilities are so dang good, even though they secretly already actually nerfed her when she teleports now, she no longer removes all debuffs, which is actually a pretty big deal for her in terms of a nerf. And what's weird is they didn't even put this in patch notes. Is it a glitch? I don't know. I'm putting this needs a nerf because that, in my personal opinion, should stay. I also think Suzu is incredibly powerful, and on top of that, her ultimate, you cannot trade a Kiriko ultimate for almost any ultimate in the game, with exception of a Nano plus another ultimate. You could Kiriko ult dry with no other ults in combination, absolutely dominate the game compared to any other ult. Like if we look at, for example, how her ultimate works, it's 50% increased attack speed and double cooldown reduction. It actually already got a nerf. It used to be triple cooldown reduction, but now it's just double. But with Kiriko, the reason why she's so dominant, and why I mentioned if you're not picking Kiriko, it's a throw, and I mentioned this several different times. If a Kiriko pops ult, can you pop a Moira ult and survive? Probably not. At the higher levels, if you pop Kiriko ult and you have like a Kiriko Ana could just throw it in multiple anti-nades and throws out an anti-nade, Zen pops ult. Oh well, when you have two anti-nades compared to one Zen ult. Like, there's so many things that just cannot go right with other ultimates in the game versus trading with a Kiriko ult, if that makes sense. And the support roster, like for example, right now it's very popular to like if you nano Soldier and throw Kiriko's ult down, it's just game over. Like, it's so hard to compete with certain ults. Like in terms of countering it, I feel like it's difficult to counter Kiriko's ult because if we go back to what Orisa's old ultimate used to do, her old ultimate used to give you 50% increased damage.
Oh, that's a lot of damage!
50% attack speed, well, it's not the same as 50% damage. For some characters, it's about the same. But on top of that, you have increased movement speed, and on top of that, you also have double cooldown reduction. It just does too much, and it gives it for your entire team, versus Orisa was just 50% increased damage, right? Or Nano is you take less damage, and then you deal 50% more damage as well. So, and that's one target. Whereas, again, if you're able to move faster, which Ana's ultimate used to do, yeah, Kiriko's ult just does way too much, in my personal opinion, and it's just impossible if your team doesn't have a Kiriko, like right there, it just bailed me out of the situation where we probably would have got eliminated. And what it does is it makes it so there's so many things where Kiriko just bails someone out of a really bad play, and then Kiriko can actually go in and actually support you by just going in, throwing down Suzu, protecting herself, and you, and then you have like a second of you can basically play really, really dumb and get away with it. And on top of that, again, it comes down to the ultimate. So I feel like Kiriko probably needs a nerf in a few different departments, but I think the main thing is actually how her hitbox is. If you played Roadhog, you've probably noticed it's very difficult to one-shot Kiriko, and that's just because she's very tiny. A lot of shotgun-based characters cannot confirm a lot of kills on a lot of the 200 HP targets, and it's just because Kiriko is so dang tiny that you cannot hit her. So I think maybe if they just made her a little bit taller, just a small amount, just so a lot of these characters that would normally be able to like delete a 200 HP target can do so, that are like shotgun based. So shotgun based characters, and there's actually a lot of them in Overwatch. Ashe's shotgun, which lets you push back, it does less damage to Kiriko just because she's simply tinier. That includes Reaper, that includes D.Va. There's so many characters that have shotguns. Junker Queen, I already mentioned D.Va, but it's just because of her hitbox. Doomfist's attack, there's a lot of things where like you cannot confirm a Kiriko elim. And on top of that, her ability to just fade out, teleport towards a target that goes through walls, it's like way too good in terms of its cooldown as well. So there it is. Let's go ahead and just zoom out so you guys can see the entire tier list and kind of my reasonings behind everything in terms of the tier list. So there's the tier list, and then on top of that, because a lot of you guys kind of want to know which characters to play, this is like my mini tier list over here of like the characters that I was going to actually put for characters still that I would recommend you guys to play to rank up, and then also which characters that I recommend if you're willing to put in the time for, like Roadhog, Ana, and Lucio. Those are great characters, but I couldn't just say, oh, if you're brand new to Overwatch, you'll pick up these characters and you can pick them up fast, versus like, it's much more difficult to play Roadhog than, let's say, Winston in a lot of circumstances, and that's because you have to know which targets to hook. You have to basically know, when certain cooldowns are going off. Versus Winston, it's a little bit more generous when you can just kind of go in and get stuff done, versus feeding on Roadhog and like not playing it within the lines of sights of your teammate, unless you have Kiriko, which can just teleport through walls and bail you out of any bad situation if you're anti to put to sleep or whatever. And Kiriko's just so good because Ana is seeing a lot more play, because Ana also got a more recent buff, because just like 1 second less cooldown. Technically, you know what's one thing I didn't mention on this list is I didn't mention Mercy's buff. Mercy has 5 extra shots. Does it change her on the tier list? No. I think she's playable for sure, but she doesn't impact the game that well in the game, because the way that Mercy gets good value is obviously off of her revive, but it's more so her damage boost, and you have to basically have a person that is not playing at the correct rank to really get good value out of Mercy that is literally pocketing a carry, right? But anyways, that's my tier list. There's an update for you guys with the most recent changes. I'm curious to know what you guys think of it. Let me know down below if you disagree, and definitely why. But thanks for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you want to see the most recent changes, once they nerf Roadhog, there's going to be another update coming out in about a week, so subscribe to that bell if you want to see it, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care, and I'm signing out. Peace.